This is a podcast called 25 Whistles, talking football, and they all wear a whistle. Yeah, it's stupid, but what did you expect? It's a podcast called 25 Whistles. 25 Whistles.
Hey, welcome. Todd McShay coming up. Also, Brandon Marcello coming up. We'll talk NFL. We'll talk college football. I'll start with this. And I saw where Bobby Portis' house was broken into. Bobby Portis plays for the Bucks, and he had a video up, and he was like, here's like the footage. These people broke into my house when I was at work, meaning playing basketball. And here, yeah, you have the audio, Mike? Here you go. Play it, please.
What's good, Milwaukee? Over the last 4.5 seasons, I've considered Milwaukee as a home. The love you guys give me here isn't something that I ever felt before in my NBA career. So I've always felt like I had to give it right back to you guys. I know we've gotten out to a horrible start to start the season, but while I was at my game yesterday, I had a home invasion and they took most of my prized possessions. Any info that leads to the return of any of my belongings will be rewarded handsomely. Let me know. Thank you.
That sucks for him. It also sucks that he has to go, okay, I know what you're going to say. We've sucked this year.
I know.
Because he had to like preface it in the middle of that. Hey, he's like, I know it's been a rough start to the season.
You still can't rob me.
To my house.
He's like 8-miling himself a little bit so other people don't do it. He's like, but someone broke in and he showed like a black and white, maybe a video or grainy footage of who it was from security cameras. But yeah, that sucks. And not only does it suck, obviously, because someone got in and broke in, I am surprised that whenever someone has a public profession like he does, when you know he's at a game or you know he's out of town, that there's not somebody at the house.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because, and again, this is not victim shaming at all, because that is terrible. And maybe there was somebody there and still they broke in. I don't know. But I know, and I'll compare on a very, very mild level myself, if I'm gone and I'm at any time gone where people know I'm gone, somebody's at my house. Because it's a job where publicly, if I'm on tour and someone knows that, I don't know, I'm in Iowa or Boston, I know that they know that I'm not at my house, therefore someone's going to be at my house. And so hopefully they get it back and they have a picture and somebody's going to see that picture, that video, and know who that is.
Yeah.
Like for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I hated that for him. It's also to have your house broken into, and I've had it happen to me before way back in the day. And again, it was while I was on the air even. And that's when I lived alone. And so when I was on the air, you knew I wasn't at home because I was on the air, and they took that time to go and break into my house and steal all kinds of stuff, including my PlayStation 2, which had the only video of me skydiving. I've got pictures, but it was a CD, and it was the time I went skydiving, and it had a tiny woman that was attached to me. Everybody else had big men. I had a tiny woman because I was the last one to sign up, and I went by myself.
When you were skydiving?
Yes, a tiny woman that we were tandem, and so she was tandem behind me. And everybody else like jumped off, but she did double backflips out of the plane with me, and nobody will believe me because I don't have the video because the person broke into my house and stole my PlayStation 2.
Dang.
That's the one thing you wish you could have back.
Unless it was a PS3.
It had probably 2. At that time, it was a 2.
Maybe a 2?
I think so.
Whatever. They stole my skydiving video.
I know, man.
I promise we did 2 or 3 backflips out of the plane.
And you must have been watching it, too, a lot because it was in your PlayStation. Why else would it be in there?
Well, you could download games at that point, too.
Oh, okay.
So I don't think I have a single
You're
game
watching it every
now.
day. Oh, I bought one. It didn't work. I bought one of the boys for Christmas. I bought them
A CD,
Madden, and it was the actual CD.
Why would you not just download it?
Because so they can open up something in Christmas. You know, like
okay,
they can
that's a good
wrap it
reason.
up and stuff like that.
That's a good reason. Yeah, we're all like, yeah, I guess.
I guess it makes sense.
Yeah, thank you guys.
I hate that for Bobby Portis. I hope he finds whoever it was that stole his stuff. I'm sure it was some good stuff too. He's rich.
Yeah.
But for me, I think because the position I'm in, that if I'm ever gone and people know I'm gone, there's somebody at my house all the time because that's just begging people. And matter of fact, they have a gun pointed at the door every second I'm gone.
Oh my!
Every door. I've got somebody at every door with a gun if I'm not there.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Not the biggest sports story, but something I was thinking about. Wanted to bring it. Something else I've been thinking about. I bet the Cowboys +3. I thought, if the Cowboys are really going to do what I think they do, I said we because I bet on them. We're going to beat the Falcons. And
because you're a fan now, too.
I'm a massive Cowboys fan. And I thought, this is getting nothing to it. And So I bring not just because we talk Cowboys every week, because Eddie's not a fan anymore. He's not even wearing a Cowboys anything.
Even more this week.
Eddie hates the Cowboys.
I mean, even less of a fan this week.
I thought it was hilarious when you see Dak mouthing on the sidelines, "We effing suck."
Hey, Dak, we've been saying that too, dude. Welcome to the club.
Oh, he wants
watching you. We've been saying that.
That's kind of dirty, dog. I don't think that's true.
What do you mean?
He has no weapons. What do you expect him to do?
Okay, what's he saying then? He's blaming the people that were on the field at the time? No. He's talking about himself too.
He's talking about the organization.
We feel you, bro. We feel you. We've been saying that too.
But you're acting like it's Dak. No, my only point was you said
he said we suck, and I'm saying we agree.
Okay, I can subscribe to that, but it felt like you said Dak specifically.
No, I mean Dak. Yes, it's hard for him too. It's just hard watching the Cowboys, man. It's hard watching the Cowboys, and yes, we too have been saying that too for like the last 3 or 4 weeks. We suck.
Hey, when QB2 came in, though, I was like, here we go.
Did you really think he was going to come back and win the game?
I thought he was going to come back and win the game. What if he? Because there was plenty of time. They were down 14 with like 9 minutes left, and I was like, here we go.
Do you think that they pulled Dak on purpose? Like, because I just saw him looking at his wrist.
No.
And then they came back from commercial and said he's out with a hamstring injury.
No, I do not. They pay him way too much.
There's no way.
And there was too much time left.
Yeah.
And a drive at that point would have made it a 1-possession game. No. Okay. I thought it was the finger injury when they pulled him.
Yeah.
I thought it was because of the finger.
Yeah.
Not that his finger wasn't hurt, but they said, and they're doing an MRI on his hamstring today or whatever it is. I
guess it's all connected, right? Hamstring goes all the way to your finger.
Hamstring bone goes to the finger bone. Finger bone goes to the hamstring bone. So Dak's hurt. Then CeeDee Lamb
was hurt.
And I felt like he was really hurt, like
really
his shoulder
hurt.
And I had bet him on the over 8 catches.
And he was at what?
Well, so he was at 7, and it was hurting bad. And I was like, leave him in the game. Leave him. He got that 8th, and I was like, get him out of the game. For the humanity. Get him out of the game.
He's hurting, for Christ's sake.
He hit the over, and I was like, you got to remove him. Take him out of there. So the Cowboys are going to have to win a lot of games.
Yeah, I don't think that's possible.
Yeah, they're done.
I just don't think it's possible.
Okay, let me ask you this question. If you had to take one of the teams to make the playoffs, the Cowboys, the Bengals, which have a pretty tough schedule coming up, Ravens, a couple Steelers games, Cowboys, Bengals, or Jets. Pick a team. I'm still going Bengals. I have a bet from both the Cowboys and the Bengals.
Ooh. I mean, you go Bengals, right? Like
I think their schedule is tougher.
Yeah, that entire division. Well, the Browns suck.
We've also seen the Ravens kind of crap a little bit.
But every team craps a little bit. Every team doesn't crap a lot. And the Ravens had an opportunity to crap this weekend, and they didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they dropped 41 or something like that, right?
Bengals got the Ravens, Chargers, Steelers next 3.
They can do that. The Cowboys beat the Steelers. They can do that.
Different Steelers. Didn't the Cowboys beat the Steelers with Justin Fields?
Yeah, and it was like at 2 in the morning.
That's true.
Yeah,
it was delayed. You're right. I forgot about that.
Right.
Everyone was sleepy.
Yeah.
I'm still going to go with the Cowboys over those other two teams.
Right.
I'm going Bengals.
I mean, yeah, I guess are we in a vacuum where Dak's not injured?
No. We're in the real world.
But
This
I don't
is
know.
the real world,
Cooper
man.
Kupp wins, man. Not Cooper Kupp. Sorry.
Cooper
Rush.
Rush.
Cooper Rush. Who got kicked out of the Rams? Was it
Puka.
Puka?
Yeah.
Throwing some
For throwing a punch.
punches,
man.
man. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going with the Cowboys still. I have faith.
Because you're a fan.
I have faith.
You sound like one of us.
I know. But it's just because I put a bunch of money on them before the season because Eddie made me. I'm going Cowboys. Kevin?
Yeah, Bengals.
Yeah, Bengals.
Eddie?
Yeah, I go Bengals, man. Can't do the Cowboys. We have no chance.
We have the Cowboys schedule.
Yeah.
It's tough. We got the Texans coming up. We have the Eagles next week.
Have you played Washington yet? I don't even think so, right?
We have not played Washington.
No, we got the Eagles, Texans, Commanders.
Yeah, I mean,
3 weeks in a row.
Bro,
I see 2-1. I see 2-1. I see 2-1 coming.
Then the Giants, Bengals, Panthers, Bucks, Eagles, Commanders again to end it.
The Saquon Matrix
was amazing.
backward jump.
Incredible.
And I'm sure that a lot of that was on accident.
Yeah.
Oh, I think he saw the guy coming.
No, of course he did. He jumped, but I don't think he jumped purposefully to flip backward.
I think he was trying to
I think his
spin and then
momentum,
just like
yes, his momentum.
Yeah.
Eddie thought he did it on purpose.
Oh,
Eddie was
I did. I saw he did the spin, and then he saw the guy like, "Ooh, I'm backwards. Let me split it."
I think he was just that was his movement,
Momentum.
and he just took him. But it was awesome.
It was amazing.
Yeah. In slow motion.
I thought he was going to
especially.
lose his helmet though when he got hit after because he landed.
Yeah.
And he took a pretty good blow, but he got up. It was. How about you're the Giants and you watch Saquon just
I know.
killing it?
He's unbelievable.
Unbelievable. Okay. Going Cowboys.
for you.
Bengals and Bengals. I can't believe you're not picking your own
I can't believe I'm saying that, but I got to be real here,
What
dude.
a loser.
Every week we go through this.
What's
and
the
I'm
best case scenario for the rest of the season and off season for you?
like, we lose every game and then get a good pick.
Dang, he's done.
We're done.
I think you can, even as it is, I think you'll still win 7 to 8 games.
To do what?
And I'm not saying, no,
What do you want to do
I'm
after
not
that? Say we do that.
okay, no. I'm not arguing. I hope you do. I'm saying I think you will.
I hope they don't. I hope that we just lose, we call it a year, and then start over next year.
Okay.
With
does that,
major changes.
but does that mean you've changed out McCarthy? Does that mean?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you trading Micah Parsons?
Yeah.
Oh, are you still called the Cowboys? Like he's trying to.
No.
I know.
No, let's
You
go.
still have the star in the
Can we
helmet?
bring back the Oilers? I don't know, dude. Honestly, I really don't know.
So your best case scenario, again, one more time, is
We lose. We lose every game from here on out, and we just change everything about our organization.
but that's not realistic to change everything.
Well, I mean, we'd still have our owner, so that's problematic.
Okay. But you keep the same quarterback. You just signed him.
Same quarterback.
Still
We
have
have
CD.
to. We have CD. So we've got to change the head coach. We got to change that coaching. Obviously, with Zeke and all his problems going on, the discipline in that office is not there.
Zeke sucks though.
Yeah.
How many times they say he was
Zeke's
late?
Not, every time.
Every time, dude.
But Zeke's not a real factor. He's not going to be a real factor. He's not a factor.
But I
anymore.
feel like if he's doing that, then that's just the culture in there. You just do whatever you want. I don't know. I'm obviously not in there, but I feel like if that's happening, that's got to be part of the problem.
Then if A equals B, according to you, then C is you're not going to watch any more games and you don't care.
This year?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I'll watch every game.
But are you okay? Then that means.
But I won't care as much.
But that means you're rooting against them every game.
What I will do is I'll watch the game. I'll probably be doing something while I'm watching the
But
game.
that means you'll be rooting against them because best case scenario is you lose every game.
That's hard. I'm not going to say I'm going to do that, but if it happens, it's like Kevin. Like if it happens,
I'm rooting for him,
like he went to the game to go see the Patriots.
and he wanted them to win.
Yeah, but he wasn't hurt that they lost.
No.
But
Didn't ruin my
his
day.
Case
team,
scenario.
his team is terrible.
I know.
His team has no weapons,
Yeah.
no tools.
Dude,
the
we're-
one weapon they have is a baby infant weapon that's a quarterback.
Drake
really,
May.
who made a great play to
That
get the game to
fourth down
overtime,
play
and then
was
a terrible play in overtime. But
Yeah,
like,
it's all right.
That's okay though.
Yeah, it's all right. Dude, when that ball was in the air, it was coming right at us. We were sitting in the end zone. I was like, he's got him. And they got picked. I was like, he doesn't got him.
You were on the field?
Towards the end, like everyone thought the game was over. And so we walked down and then they started driving and then we sat in the seats like 10 rows up from the end zone, right where they scored.
Wow, that's cool.
Oh, so you weren't on the field?
No, I wasn't on the field.
God, Eddie
But-
said you were on the field.
That's made it sound like that. He was at the end zone, he said.
No, I didn't think that at all.
Oh.
Catch it?
Oh. I thought he was like right there sideline.
Oh, think he's like doing some reporting. Him and Aaron Andrews.
and his dad.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. My things were 1, Bobby Portis, 2, Cowboys, Eddie, 3. I was going to talk to Kevin about going to the game. I feel like if I were a Patriots fan, I would be very happy with that Drake May performance yesterday.
Very. Yeah, he had a couple bad plays. That pick, the first pick was very, very bad. But overall, I mean, he looked like maybe the best player on the Tony Pollard's pretty damn good, by the way. Best player out of both teams. Just making plays at least. He gives me some hope. It's exciting.
Your dad and your brother with you?
Yeah, they flew in.
And I could see, though, hoping for a win because the whole family was there.
Yes.
So I can because if they lose, great, you want a better pick, and they're not going to win a bunch of games. But the Cowboys will probably win 7. I think Cowboys win at least 7 games this year. I think the Patriots may win 1 or 2 more just because the NFL has so much parity.
Mm-hmm.
So they lose. But I think I'd be sad they lost because you wanted to like win a game with your dad and your brother.
Yeah, but I will say that 4th down play, the final play of regulation, brought enough joy where you're like, that was fun. And I'll also say Gerard Mayo go for 2 next time. I don't know why they don't go
you
for
should
2.
have. Yeah.
What are we doing?
You know, the general rule, great point. The general rule is if you're at home, you go to overtime.
Yeah.
If you're on the road, you go for 2.
Yeah. And they had all the momentum.
And
scored.
and also who cares?
Exactly.
Who cares?
Exactly. It's like, why wouldn't you just go for it?
Yeah, I agree. Final thing was a lot of people lost this weekend in college football. Just looking at the list of teams that lost, Penn State lost. Now they lost to Ohio State, but I'm going to read you all the ranked teams that lost. Penn State at 3 lost. Texas A&M at 10 lost. South Carolina. Iowa State, who's undefeated by the way, lost to Texas Tech. Clemson, lost to Louisville. Kansas State, we don't like this for Kansas State. We like Kansas State. They lost to Houston. Pittsburgh lost to SMU. Pittsburgh lost bad. That game was not a game, and Pittsburgh scored late to make that somewhat looked like it was a close. It was 48-25, and it was not that close of a game.
Yeah.
And then Minnesota beat Illinois. Illinois was 24. We like Illinois, but a lot of teams lost that were ranked. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 teams. Arkansas lost bad.
Ooh.
God dang.
Waiting for that.
Fireball.
I turned that game on. It was like 35-6 or something.
What on
It,
earth?
it got bad real quick.
And I was like,
And
"Jeez."
I punished myself and forced myself to watch every down.
Did you
I was like,
really?
oh yeah. I was like, if you're gonna be a fan, loser.
I did that too.
And so I watch every freaking
Did you
every
say
play.
that out loud or internally?
I don't know because I talk internally to myself as much as I talk out loud.
You call yourself a loser?
Yeah, I'm sure. I thought if you're gonna be a loser, watch the game. Watch the game. Do not leave a single play. If you're gonna make a big deal about it, it was an 11 o'clock game. You're gonna wake up in the morning excited about it, and you're gonna watch the whole game. You did this to yourself, and I did. I watched the whole game, and it sucks. So stupid. I'm stupid. It sucks.
Why are we putting so much on a team that we have no control over?
That's what we do.
It's a passion. Everybody's got passions.
But like really, like after the game's over,
Oh
I'm just
boy,
like,
here he goes.
this
I
is
know.
it.
He's getting
Why?
existential
I
now
know.
on sports because his
Why?
team sucks.
Like I have no control over what they do. That's their life.
You don't have control over like what your bosses do either, like corporate, and they can fire you, hire you.
I can send an
lazy-
email.
Okay, well, you send we sent one to Jerry Jones. He let us come with the Cowboys.
yeah.
That's true. That worked. God, it just feels like
I know.
we put so much into this, and then they just lose, and then we sit there all sad for the rest of the day, for the rest of the week. You know, my Mondays are so hard now. My Mondays were never hard.
But it only feels that way because you're losing. When you're winning, you're like, I love it. I love putting it.
Mondays are great.
It's the best. You wake
Awesome.
up.
God.
We pretty much sucked on the parlay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, I was
I
curious.
kind of
about
kicked that off too with Army.
That was close, though.
Yeah,
I mean,
they
well,
won by 10,
like,
I think. We
No,
did
they won by
18.
17.
Kevin's the only one that hit Vanderbilt +7. I did bet
that
like
close.
the live betting. I put like $900 on Vanderbilt and they did, and it was awesome.
That's great.
Yeah, Vanderbilt's. I like them.
That'll ease the pain a little bit. Whoa, that was earlier.
Yeah, but here's the thing:
Before the
there were 4 games. We knew we weren't going to hit all 4.
Someday we will, though. And it's going to be awesome when we do that.
Kevin hit Vanderbilt +7 at Auburn. Tennessee did beat Kentucky, but they did not cover 16.5. Army did beat Air Force. They did not cover. Michigan, Oregon, which Reed picked. That one was not close at all,
guys.
right?
My bad.
No,
No,
that's
that was-
okay, man.
That was the worst
Actually,
one.
I think they might have been covering, and then Oregon scored late.
Hey, it was the worst one.
But it was bad.
Great feel bad. It was the worst one.
The game was never close.
Let's talk about the game, the Monday night game. So DraftKings Pick 6, different app. You're gonna love it. You select 2 or more players and choose if they'll have more or less of a stat, points or rebounds if you're doing basketball, or like the football game, you can do passing yards. Patrick Mahomes more or less than 250 passing yards, and they're playing the Bucks. And it's easy to go more because again he throws, but he hasn't had to be the quarterback he's been needed to be in the past. I'm gonna go less.
Oh, go
Less than 250.
Okay.
Baker Mayfield, more or less than 236 passing yards. I'm going to go more. I think they're going to need to throw.
Because he's going to sling
What does that even
with
mean?
his eyes closed.
What does that mean? Sling?
Just spray and pray.
Mm.
Let it rip.
Pray and
You
pray.
said like 6
That's a
cliches.
Call of-
Hey,
That's
that's
a
what
Call
they
of Duty reference,
yeah.
Spray and pray, really?
Yeah.
I
It's like
know.
a shooting
No,
ref.
that's like a
He got Reed
1980s
excited.
Oh, really?
military.
Why does that have to be
70s, 70s, 80s military? I mean, that spray and pray's been around forever.
You mean hoorah?
No. Spray and pray's been a thing forever.
Oh.
They may also say it in Call of Duty.
Yeah.
Kelsey, more or less than 61 receiving yards. Why not more? Who cares?
Exactly.
Did you see his brother, Jason Kelsey?
Yeah,
there?
what was that?
Why would that idiot frat guy?
That's stupid.
Yeah, he's an idiot.
What are you doing?
I don't know.
He's probably drunk.
Being an idiot.
100%.
Just to be an idiot.
Yeah.
He
I
didn't
don't-
mean what
but
he was saying.
I don't
right?
understand because he used a homophobic slur for baiting a pop star. Just in my mind, I'm like, why? First of all, never use that slur. Second of all, dating a hot pop star makes
Yeah.
Makes no
that
sense.
you make no sense.
No.
And then Kelsey slammed his phone. Kelsey out fell. Like you saw him kind of fall, right?
Yeah, he
Mhm.
did.
That kid is lucky Kelsey didn't pound him. Or by pound him with one shot. Or just shove him to the ground. Like the restraint that Kelsey was able to. What an
Yeah.
idiot. What an idiot. But anyway, Travis Kelce, less. 61 yards.
Okay, that's how we got there. All that's
Download the new DraftKings Pick 6 app. Use the code BobbySports. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 plus. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. One per new customer. Bonus awarded is non-withdrawable. Pick 6 credits that expire in 30 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos. All right, we're going to start with this. It's our guy we talk to every week. It's national college football writer for 24/7 Sports, Brandon Marcello. Brandon is a weekly regular. I think he's the best at what he does. Follow him on Twitter, @bmarcello, and as he tells us later, @Brandon Marcello on Instagram. Let's get into college ball with Brandon Marcello. Okay, Brandon, I want to start with South Carolina and Texas A&M. Is South Carolina getting a lot better as the season goes? Is Texas A&M getting a lot worse, or is this just SEC parity?
It's the parity portion of it, but also South Carolina's been pretty good throughout the season. You know, they nearly upset Alabama on the road. They probably should have won that game. They were very close against LSU at home in a morning-afternoon game. Carolina, for them, they're just really good along the defensive front. And then when you have a dynamic quarterback like Lenora Sellers for them, they've got opportunities to beat really anybody in the SEC. It's just that like nothing had really kind of come together. You know, Lenora Sellers had been hobbled a couple of times with some injuries. He's not a great passer, but when the running game gets going, it makes him a better passer because more things open up. And the key here for them, the difference in this game between those other two against LSU and Alabama was that the running game got going early. They got a big lead early, 10-0. A&M decides to try and go for it on fourth down on their own side of the field, and the floodgates kind of opened up. And as a result, the playbook opened up a little bit more for South Carolina.
I see a lot of Texas fans taking joy that Texas A&M lost. And again, just speculation here. Can A&M still beat Texas?
Yeah, I think so because A&M's got a pretty good defense, especially up front. Their quarterback situation is pretty good. Marcel Reed is kind of still learning on the go as a first-year starter and being inserted and picked off the field and put back on the field these last couple of weeks. You know, the thing for Texas is that they really haven't played a big-time game on the road this season. Their toughest environment, I would argue, has been at Vanderbilt, other than Michigan. Now, Michigan, the Big House, is different, but also Michigan is maybe going to be a 500 team, maybe a little bit below this year. They're an average team at best. Vanderbilt's above average. And so Texas, really, when they go on the road at Texas A&M, in that rivalry game finally being played for the first time in more than a decade, and there's going to be playoff implications on the line and potentially a spot in the SEC championship game, that is going to affect the way Texas plays so much more than Texas A&M. And I think A&M is most definitely one of the top 3 teams in the SEC, but playing that game at home could make them end up looking like the top team based off of the way they perform in that game with the home crowd behind them.
If we talk about SEC home crowds, Kyle Field, a place you hate to play because they are very loud. They're nuts. They got those weirdo dudes in white suits jumping around. I was talking about Neyland Stadium, Knoxville. It's massive. They play Rocky Top so many times that you just leave that place singing it and you're like, I wish I could stop singing it. But that is a dynamic place to play. What would you list your top 3 home field advantages in the SEC?
Great question, man. LSU at night is number 1. Number 2 to me, when things are going well and it's rocking, Florida, the Swamp. That place gets really, really loud. I was at a game there. It was an afternoon game even. It was between Auburn, I think was in the top 5 at the point, and Florida was kind of on the borderline there. This was about like 6-7 years ago. It's the loudest environment I've ever been in anywhere. I couldn't believe it. I've been to several games there. That one was insane. And then third, I'll go out on a limb here and say it's either Tennessee at night when they're rolling or Williams-Brice Stadium at South Carolina at night. Sandstorm gets in your head just as much as Rocky Top, and that place gets noisy whenever they see any semblance of fight from their team and they've got an opportunity to upset someone. So for me, it's those 4, but the tie at number 3 between Tennessee and South Carolina.
And when he says at night, everybody, he means when they're drunk. That's what that. It's they've had a lot of time to loosen up, and I just. But yeah, LSU at night and Florida. I mean, they're it's uncomfortable loud where you think it can't be that loud, but it almost hurts, right?
Yes, no, definitely. And like LSU is just there's no atmosphere like LSU in the entire country because they get wet and lathered up throughout the day at the tailgates, and it's the only place really in America where you've heard horror stories of teams riding in on buses and the fans surrounding the buses as they're coming in. And once they park, they start shaking the buses and rocking them back and forth. It's a very, very volatile atmosphere.
Okay, let's talk about annoying day games. There was one this week, the Penn State-Ohio State game. It was at Penn State because the big noon kickoff. It had to happen at, noon. That was stupid that it was a day game. Do you agree?
Yeah, but TV rules the world, and at this point, it doesn't matter if a game's on in prime time for it to be their quote-unquote big game, especially if Fox has got the first selection because their games are going to be at big noon, and they had that one spot to be able to fill this week. But yeah, it makes you wonder, like, if the bigger games of the weekend, it almost seemingly we should just always put those at night, right? But college football has changed so much in the last 15 years when it comes from a TV perspective. I still hear a lot of old heads going, why, even for some games going, why is this game being played at night? It's a bad game. It's like, well, because they've got so many time slots to fill that they're moving things around, and it's all about hitting the dynamic of not having a lot of head-to-head competition in certain hours, and let's put this crappy game here, and let's put this top-tier game here. It doesn't really much matter depending on the network that's selecting. And with all the major networks involved, at this point, it's just if we get the biggest game, we're going to put them in our top time slot. And for Fox, it's noon.
I feel like that game could have gone Penn State's way had it been a night game. And I understand the dynamics of the television.
Hey, listen, I disagree with that. You know why? Because Penn State is just Penn State. Penn State has become Penn State's become Iowa with different colors.
You're right.
They just look so conservative and uncomfortable in big time situations. Penn State had 2 opportunities inside the 5-yard line, and they got stuffed every single time, 4 straight times on one possession. Nothing creative down near the goal line to be able to punch it in. The only creative thing we saw was they motioned an offensive lineman across the formation just so he could block. Like, what are you doing? You're not going to confuse Ohio State by doing that. And it's just, not to say Penn State's snake bitten, but they're 0-18 when Penn State's ranked going against a top 5 opponent this century. It's not just a James Franklin problem. It's a Penn State problem. Joe Paterno was having the same issues. But the difference between, I know I'm joking here when I say Penn State's like Iowa in a lot of ways, but there is one big difference here. Unlike Iowa, Penn State's got the talent to face an Ohio State or a Michigan year to year. Iowa doesn't. And Iowa plays conservatively because they have to do that to dictate the tempo to give their talent a chance to contend against the better talent. Penn State's got equal to maybe just a little bit below talent than Ohio State, and yet they feel like they have to be conservative to be able to win games. No, let it all fly. You're playing at home in front of the biggest crowd in your stadium's history, 111,000 people, and you get to the goal line and you run it 4 straight times. What are you doing?
I would still say, and I agree, but I would still say that crowd at night helping the defense. I think that's a 2 to 3 point swing. And Penn State's up 10-0. I thought it was like, here we go, baby. This is about to be it. And it wasn't. And they you're right. They bombed. They got tight. And when you play tight, you don't win. I feel bad for James Franklin. Did you saw him arguing with the fan after the game?
Yeah, he's got to stop doing that. It's not the first time he's done that, by the way, in previous years. You just can't do that. Don't get into the fans. That's why they're paying you a lot of money, is to take that criticism and just let it roll off your back. That's what the money's for, as they say in Mad Men. That's not a good look, and it's only going to add fuel to the fire for people wanting him out there, which is ludicrous to begin with, considering all the games he wins. And also, Penn State's most likely still going to go in the playoff this year and has a chance to make a run there. So he just needs to let that stuff roll off his back. Otherwise, you're going to put yourself in a situation where it's not just a war of words. What happens now that fans know they can get a rise out of you by yelling at you? All it takes is one fan to say something really crazy or like bump into you, and then all of a sudden we have a bigger situation here with all these cell phone cameras out there. So just let it roll off your back, go in the tunnel, go in the locker room.
I feel like Penn State and Indiana. Indiana's still undefeated. It's amazing. I think Cignetti's actually creating a new bar for first-year coaches, much like there have been a couple rookie quarterbacks, just like C.J. Stroud did, right? He shows up with the Texans, and now they're like, well, all rookies need to be pretty good. I think Cignetti's doing that because he brought over some of the JMU guys. He's the first time ever. Indiana's undefeated. I think they're 9-0 at this point. Maybe I think they're 9-0. But they haven't played anybody. Penn State hasn't beat anybody. And when I mean that, they haven't beat anybody with a number beside their name. Like, how will that affect either one of those teams going into either the Big Ten championship or the college football playoff?
It's a great question. I think what's really going to be interesting here is most recently here with the first release of the CFP rankings. How does that affect them in the selection committee's eyes? Where is Indiana in those rankings? Where is Penn State? Is Indiana above Penn State in the college football playoff rankings? Probably not, because they're going to talk about strength of schedule. And as you said, Indiana hasn't beaten anybody with a number beside their name really at this point in the year. But Indiana has won every game by 14 points or more. I mean, hell, they gave Michigan State a 10-point jump start this past week and then scored 47 unanswered to win 47-10. And you're right. I mean, Cignetti's done an incredible job there and has set the bar. But I will say this, don't be thinking you can reach that bar if you're a first-year coach anywhere else. Cignetti's special. I mean, there might be some bars out there. You might be drinking yourself to death if you think you can repeat what Cignetti's doing in his first year somewhere else, because what he's doing is magical. But also, he's been telling us to expect this, right? Throughout the preseason, he said, Google me. Everywhere I go, I win. He knows how to coach. He knows how to build a roster, more importantly, and get the best out of them. Brought all those James Madison guys. And listen, those James Madison guys are obviously very good, but they weren't like highly recruited guys or people that just popped. I mean, even several of those guys he brought on from James Madison were only really getting Power 5, lower tier Power 5 offers in the transfer portal this past offseason. Cignetti just loves those guys with the chips on their shoulders. I mean, their top receiver right now was a guy playing D2 football just a few years ago. He's just built different.
Let's talk about Carson Beck. 3 pretty ugly interceptions. Georgia, it took him a while. I mean, I watched a lot of that game. I thought, wow, will Florida actually pull this off? Carson Beck's draft stock, probably not as good as it was when the year started. Do we still feel like Georgia could win the national championship? And do we still feel like Carson Beck is elite?
Georgia can very well win the national championship still. They maybe have the best talent in all of college football, even over Ohio State. The problem, though, is Carson Beck. His stock has dropped considerably in the NFL draft. And I think that our preseason concerns about what is he going to do without Ladd McConkey and Brock Bowers at receiver and tight end are now warranted. He's thrown 11 interceptions in the last 5 games, back-to-back games with 3+ interceptions on the road. And, of course, one of those was a big win at Texas. But you're seeing the cracks in the armor there. And the thing with Georgia, though, is that they just need to have a little bit more confidence in some of those other receivers. I think Carson Beck, he's gotten in his own head a little bit, and he's starting to see ghosts a little bit because he's not trusting the players around him when he should. And it's incredible. Carson Beck has the most interceptions by a Georgia quarterback since Aaron Murray was the quarterback back in 2011. So it's been 13 years of great quarterback play, and now it's just kind of above average quarterback play, and that's holding Georgia back a little bit. I think Florida would have beaten Georgia this past week if DJ Lagway, Florida's quarterback, doesn't get injured in the second quarter and has to be pulled, and they have to bring in a walk-on from Yale to be quarterback there. This was a one-possession game in the fourth quarter, and Florida was obviously leading still at halftime as well when Lagway went out. So Georgia does have some issues, but that defense is just so damn good that they're going to be able to beat anybody else on the schedule. It's just you can't allow Carson Beck to throw 3 interceptions on the road down the line because they got a big, gigantic one this week at Ole Miss. Ole Miss is a dangerous team that is desperate. They have to beat Georgia to stay alive in the playoff race with 2 losses already, and that's a dangerous spot going into Oxford against a desperate team that can score a lot of points.
Got 2 final questions. My first question, I start with a statement. I'm so glad to see Clemson lose. I hate Dabo. I don't hate him as a person. He's just annoying to me. So the fictional version of him, I'm just annoyed by all the time. So I was so happy to see them lose to Louisville. So, okay, Miami wins, and there were some real nutty plays. They just continue to win, though. SMU wins. Can SMU beat Miami and win the ACC?
Yes, because of the ground game, the way they're able to run the ball and their defensive line, they're able to stop the run considerably well. They were going into this game in the top 3 nationally in rush defense, if I recall, and they slowed Pitt down, jumped all over them. The difference for SMU here of late has really been Kevin Jennings at quarterback. They inserted him as a starter, I think, after week 3, and at that BYU loss, they lost by 3, and they have really turned things around, and they're finding their identity offensively, which is a run-first team that can hit the big play down the field. And then also defensively, they're just really good. The good thing for SMU is that it's an incredible story. You know, they're undefeated in the ACC right now. Last year, they were a group of 5 team, right? And they only had 14 months from the day they found out they were going to join the ACC to join, and then the start of the season to prepare their roster. So what did they do? Rhett Lashley went out and got 13 offensive or defensive linemen in the portal, all of them with playing experience at a power conference team. They built the depth up, and that's helped them. They've had to deal with injuries, but because of that depth they built up, they're able to contend in the ACC. And I most definitely think they could give Miami some problems because a lot of teams have given Miami problems. It's just that Cam Ward, their quarterback, is an absolute magician and puts his foot down on the throat of everybody in the fourth quarter, and they're able to pull away in games. SMU's built a little bit different.
Final question. This is a purely hypothetical. I'd like to say it again. It is so hypothetical that I am floating on a cloud riding a unicorn. That's how hypothetical that this question is, okay? Let's just say the University of Arkansas head coach Sam Pittman retires at the end of this year. You know, he's got a bad hip. He's had a good run. Nobody wants to see him get fired. But again, the program, hypothetically, not really. So we're riding the unicorn right now. Who do you think Arkansas's first call would be to? Rhett Lashley or Barry Odom?
I think it'd probably be Barry Odom because of the connection there that's already established between Hunter Yurachek, the AD, and obviously Barry Odom being the defensive coordinator previously at Arkansas and has SEC head coaching experience at Mizzou. I think he'd probably be the first call. I think Rhett Lashley would definitely be up there too. I have my own opinions on who they should hire.
Feel free to give it. We're an opinion-based opportunity right here.
I'd hire Rhett Lashley in a moment. Arkansas guy, gets the program. I think, I don't know what his thinking is really. That's a dream job for him. I mean, this guy grew up a Razorbacks fan, went to school there, and I think he would probably jump at the opportunity if it's right. Financially, the NIL situation, the recruiting aspect of it, and Rhett Lashley just wins everywhere he goes. I think he's perfectly built as a head coach in this new era with NIL and revenue sharing. I think he'd be a great hire there. I do wonder the Arkansas boosters, how they would see the potential of hiring another SMU head coach like
After
they did with Chad Morris.
Yeah.
I think, but the two are not related, obviously. It's just they couldn't be further apart, especially with the way the programs have been built in separate ways. So he'd be the guy I'd hire. Absolutely. He'd be the guy.
Riding a unicorn. That's all. It's a completely hypothetical riding a unicorn situation. I just like to say that again. Brandon Marcello, you guys follow Brandon at Brandon Marcello or at B Marcello, excuse me. But I follow you on Instagram too. Is your Instagram B Marcello as well? Because I just have your Twitter.
Yeah, it's Brandon Marcello on Instagram.
Okay, so B Marcello on Twitter, but Brandon Marcello on Instagram. Follow Brandon. He is my absolute favorite writer in all of college football. Brandon, good to see you, and we'll talk to you again next week.
All right, see you, Bobby.
All right, see you, buddy. All right, new segment called Oddly Numbered List. I make a list, and I don't commit to a number, like top 5, top 10.
Oh, cool.
It's just an oddly numbered list. And my oddly numbered list this week are sports personalities that are awesome. And there are 9 of them. It's an oddly number. It's an odd number.
Okay.
So I call it an oddly numbered list. And I'm going to start at number 1. And the reason this list is what it is, it's 1, how much time I spend with them now, not personally. Some of them don't know I exist, but I listen to them, how much time I invested in them as a kid. Some of them, that factors in. And if like something big in sports happens, do I go and search what they have to say? Like that's the ranking system for my oddly numbered list.
Solid criteria.
And we're going to start at number 1. And at number 1, sports personalities that I love and depend on, I'm going Rich Eisen.
He's awesome.
For a few reasons. 1, he's awesome. 2, he's awesome. 3, he's awesome. That's all I need.
You need nothing else.
Good.
Like, young, loved him on SportsCenter. Now, I've got to fill in on a show, Didn't even meet him when I filled in on a show because he was gone, obviously. It's not like he's going to be there to meet me when I fill in on a show. Otherwise, he could do his own show. But he let me fill in for a couple of days. We have talked to him on this show a couple times. He's been to my house. We went to dinner with him. Like, he works for NFL Network, so like he's got insides even if he acts like he doesn't.
Yeah,
like he'll have
yeah.
opinions, and I know like you know this because you know this.
Mhm.
It's not even because like you're just speculating this. Number 1, Rich Eisen. Number 2, Colin Cowherd. I listen to Colin Cowherd probably 3 days a week. I listen to the best of Colin Cowherd, which is the boiled down version of like his 4-hour show.
Mhm.
Maybe it's a 3-hour show. I'm not sure. So it's like 45 minutes of just like and I love he comes on with a big monologue and it's great. And he has big opinions. And he said to me once, he was like, it doesn't matter if you're right or not, just be entertaining. And I was like, that's awesome. Because he has a lot of opinions and he's probably wrong a lot of times, but who cares? He's like, who cares? Just have big opinions that are entertaining to people. Who cares if you're right? Just have opinions. And number 2, Colin Cowherd. And number 3, Dan Patrick. Much like Rich Eisen earlier, spent a lot of time with Dan Patrick as a kid watching SportsCenter. Dan Patrick's television show that also exists now, as does his radio show, and like the Danettes, like I'm a fan. And I would watch the television show when my hours were a bit different. I would watch television show all the time. I remember they had a golf simulator in his studio, and they had a basketball court. It was awesome. I was like, man, I want to do that someday. And so I have a golf simulator like in the studio at home. So yeah, Dan Patrick, I just also like his interview style. I think he's the most famous
Yeah.
of all.
Out of the 3 you said, yeah.
Yeah,
He's been
because
in a lot of
he's
movies.
movies like Sandler movies. Dan Patrick is at number 3. And catchphrases, right? He had the catchphrase "En fuego." You know, that was Dan Patrick, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
You're too young.
I was gonna say I had.
You're too young.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Hey, shut up. You're too young.
Okay.
But you agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds right.
It's just getting me to move on.
Yeah.
At number 3 on my oddly numbered list is Dan Patrick. At number 4 are the guys from Part of My Take, which is a podcast that I listen to. It's on Barstool, and they have really no background in playing sports. They're just funny. And Big Cat and PFT, which by the way, he was known because he just wrote so many comments on the message board of Pro Football Talk that that's how they found him. He would just write funny messages in the comment section.
Like stupid comments or
Yeah,
like
just whatever. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But they, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I probably listened to 2 out of the 3 of their episodes. Not fully because I fall asleep because I listen to it at night when I go to sleep. I never hear the back of anybody's podcast, by the way. I always fall asleep.
Crazy that you
Any of
listen
them.
while
I know.
sleeping.
It's the difference because my wife, when we married, I watched television every night falling asleep because I slept with the TV on, never had a bedroom, so I slept in the living room. TV was always on. So I always slept with the TV on, so the compromise I made with my wife was I just listen to a podcast now. And I listen to it under my pillow. So they're at number 4 because they're very entertaining. Number 5, Bill Simmons.
Yep.
When it comes to NBA, nobody is better than Bill Simmons.
Yep.
Also, just like his story of like being a Boston guy, blogging, doing Grantland, ESPN, pop culture, the meshing and melding of pop culture and sports, going to start the Ringer, selling the Ringer, like mogul, and also have friends that work for him. 2 of them. One still does. My brother-in-law. So Bill Simmons is at number 5 on my list.
Good one.
Number 6, Ryan Russillo,
Mm-hmm.
who now works for Bill Simmons at the Ringer. Again, massive NBA guy, but also Ryan Russillo, him and Van Pelt used to do a show together way back in the day on ESPN Radio that I listened to. I listened to Russillo and learn a lot of what to watch on my NBA Sunday ticket because I have Sunday ticket for NBA.
Yeah.
It's also called League Pass.
Best. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. So Russillo is 6. SVP's at 7. Scott Van Pelt, and here's why. I never miss a Sunday SVP podcast because he's the only person who puts out a podcast on Sunday because he does it right after the games on Saturday night. Now McShay does that, who we're going to have on in a little bit.
Yeah.
But Scott Van Pelt and Stanford Steve do a podcast after all the college games on Saturday night so they can talk about it and they have it up for Sunday. And so on Sunday when I'm going to sleep, nobody's put out a new episode, so I listen to that on Sunday night. So I listen to SVP ever. And also, he was Sports Center, Next Generation.
He's an
And he
icon.
does a live TV like after Monday Night Football, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
That's
every
Sports
weeknight.
Center.
Yeah.
It's SVP Center or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And he's like
Yeah.
the only OG still around.
But I don't think he's O. He's not O.
Whoa.
He's like M. He's like an MG.
But Kevin's younger.
But he's not an OG. Just because you're younger, you can't say who the OGs
So
are.
the M is the middle?
Yeah, he's a middle G.
Ah.
Like, you don't put him in the same like timeline as the Rich Eisen and
No,
the Dan Patrick?
they're not the
Really?
same.
That's like Stuart Scott, right?
Yeah,
like
that-
the Rich Eisen and stuff. Yeah.
He's not O. And you could look this up and see when he came on. But the O's are Berman, Dan Patrick. Eisen came a bit late, but Craig Kilborn was an O.
Wow.
See, I don't even remember the Kilborn
Keith
days.
Olbermann.
Exactly. So shut up.
Dang.
Got him.
Got him, didn't I?
2001.
For who?
Van Pelt.
Van Pelt. And then when did like Dan Patrick come on? An OG. He's an MG though. He's the biggest MG.
He's like a middle of the M and OG.
You can't fight for that. He's an MG.
And I think he's like a middle OG.
He's a middle G.
It's okay, guys. You both can be right.
No, I'm right. He cannot declare he's an OG.
Dan Patrick was 89.
Yeah, there's a big difference in 89, 2001.
Yeah. It's a big difference.
Okay, that's number 7, SVP. Number 8, Nick Wright, who is one of the smartest guys in all of talking about sports, period. He comes out and he says stuff, and I'm like, dang, I thought that. I just didn't even know to say it like that. Like he works at Fox Sports. He does the television show. Nick Wright is really, really smart. Like probably too smart to talk about sports.
He has a weird way of growing on you.
Yep.
Like at first you're like, who is this guy? And then you listen to him and you're like, actually, he's right.
Yeah, or you're like, wow, he's way smarter than I am.
Yeah, that too.
I'd like to challenge him to a fist fight.
Yeah.
Because he says stuff sometimes you disagree with, and you're like, you know what? I think I've been convinced. And then finally at number 9, new on my oddly numbered list, because new into my life, and he's been on this show as well, but I like to listen to him talk about football and scouting, is John Middlecoff, because he was once an NFL scout. He scouted for the Eagles and Andy Reid, and now he does a podcast underneath Cowherd's network. So at number 9, John Middlecoff, who also does a golf podcast. I listen to that as much. I like to hear the football stuff.
Yeah.
But his is called 4 and Out, 3 and Out,
3 and out.
Three and out.
Yep.
3 and Out. So there you go. That's my oddly numbered list.
Odd number, 9.
9. I know.
I like it.
Thank you.
Never seen another list like it.
None. Wait till you see the other numbers. I'm going to come here with a 122 one day.
Whoa.
We're here all day.
Anybody you put on the list?
Those are all tops for me. I was going to say Bill Simmons, Russillo I listen to a lot. I also listen to Bucky Brooks and Daniel Jeremiah Move the Sticks. That's a big one that I listen to.
I don't know them. Are they good?
Yeah, they're like,
I've heard the commercial for it.
yeah, NFL
Move the
draft
Sticks.
draft
What-
analysis.
what network?
NFL Network.
Oh, so they're an NFL
Yeah.
podcast?
Yeah, they both work for, and they're very like, it's much more like deep analysis of players and teams, and rather than like opinionated.
I love opinions.
Even if they're not right.
Even if they're not right, as long as they're entertaining. Okay, now let's get over. Mike, you want to go to commercial first?
Yeah, it's a good commercial.
Okay, we're going to come back with Todd McShay. All right, here is longtime NFL draft analyst Todd McShay. He has a new podcast called The McShay Show, where it's just in depth on. I've been listening and watching, and I'll tell him this. I found him on TikTok. I was like, oh, McShay does a show now. This is cool. But he does. I mean, it's just it's a lot of football, and I would say he obviously talks about like how good players are and possibly the draft, but he does more than just that. I think because I know him from that, I only associate him with that right now.
Yeah.
Meaning the draft stuff. But it's a really good show. You can follow him on Twitter at McShay13. But again, it's called The McShay Show. And here he is, Todd McShay. Hey, Todd, big fan. Glad to have you on the show. Thanks for spending a few minutes with us.
Of course. How you doing, man?
Good. I kind of discovered your new venture like I discover everything in the whole world now on TikTok. And I was like, dang, McShay's doing a podcast now. And then it's all with Bill and Ringer. And so congratulations, because I'm already a fan. It just feels like when it comes to college and NFL, you're pretty dialed into both. How's the transition been?
It's been fun. It really has. It's not what I expected. I was with ESPN for 17 years and, kind of developed my career and through the NFL draft, and then doing college games for about 12 years on the sideline as a sideline analyst. And so when that relationship ended, let's put it that way, I wasn't sure what the next step was. So kind of interviewed and talked to like 9 different places and finally found a home. And it feels right with Spotify and The Ringer. And I always said, like, if I'm going to do it, if I'm going to come back, I just want to do it my way with my people, handcuffs off, and just be able to share more of the process, right? Like, not just 90-second clips with video over it and the producer in my ear telling me, when to wrap up. And I'm sure you can relate to this. Like, there's something freeing about just being yourself with your people, being able to go on. And if it lasts 50 minutes, great. If it lasts 90 minutes, great. But be able to just kind of be authentically you without any restrictions. So that part has been a blast. It's only 2 weeks old, but the McShay Show, so far so good, I think. And we're having a lot of fun. I know that.
Yeah, I agree. And something you said there resonates because obviously, like, I hired all my friends. We've been doing this for a long time. But it's the little things too. Like, for example, the Richmond Spiders helmet that's behind you. And I watch clips or I've listened to the podcast and I was like, okay, I've watched McShay do draft analysis forever. I've watched you do, but like, I didn't know your story, but that helmet made me look into, I had no idea that, did you walk on at Richmond in like 95? Is that what it is?
Yeah. So I came from a small town, Swampscott, Massachusetts, right? Football is it's not a hotbed. It's not Georgia, Florida, Texas, California. And wound up a coach, Jim Reed, who coached at UMass for a long time, brought a bunch of, he was, in Massachusetts before coaching at Boston College when he got the head coaching job at Richmond, brought a bunch of massholes down to Richmond, Virginia. And that was kind of a culture shock for all of us. But I was a preferred walk-on. And I came to realize what preferred meant was like, yeah, you can come and get a great education, but you're going to be a tackling dummy for a while and see if you have a chance to actually, contribute to this team. So it was a great experience. I never thought I'd be able to play with guys like Mark Magnus, Sean Barber went on to the NFL. But it kind of paved the way for me. I got injured and wound up doing an undergraduate coaching gig with University of Richmond. And that was kind of the jumping off point for me, just sitting in an office, breaking down tape, doing all these demeaning tasks at the time, but it got my foot in the door and it was kind of the start of all of this.
And to your point, because you do this podcast and you can go a bit more long form and you can even pick the set behind you, I saw the helmet and was like, I wonder what his relationship is with Richmond, because again, I'd only watch like you do what you do really well on ESPN, which was you would talk about the draft for the most part. And you'd be the guy that I would watch a lot of when it came time to actually, honestly making bets on who I thought was going to fall where. But it was that, and it was like what you're doing now, which is really cool, is giving a more look at actually who you are. So congratulations, and I'm already a fan, so really looking forward to the growth in the podcast space. And I also enjoy. I was listening to you talk about running backs and how it's different than it used to be back when we were a lot younger, when they would draft a bunch of running backs early. But there are going to be a lot of running backs drafted early for running backs this season, like multiple running backs. Why do we think that is?
It's interesting. Part of it is, I think, just football in general is cyclical, right? And I think we got away from the running backs when the spread offense came in, and you started to see it was all about wide receivers and getting guys the ball in space. And so I think the running back position had to evolve to guys who weren't just built like Eddie George, and 30, 35 carries a game, pounding it away. Running backs now are an extension of the run game's an extension of the pass game. And they've got to be able to catch the football and be dynamic when they get in space, because that's what everyone's trying to do is create these opportunities. And so as the game has evolved, the running back position has evolved. And now even turning in, tune into the NFL on Sundays. Like, running backs are becoming a bigger and bigger factor. And it's not like, 3 guys in a committee necessarily. Like, just, the vast majority of good teams have one and a lot of times like 2 really good running backs. Look at Detroit, right? Like Jahmyr Gibbs, they use a first-round pick. Terrible decision to draft a running back in the first round. How is Brad Holmes, the GM for Detroit, going to address all the important positions when he's using one of those first-round picks on a running back? Well, now you've got Jahmyr Gibbs, you've got David Montgomery. They're kind of a two-headed monster. The running game is setting up the passing game. Play action is where Jared Goff feeds off of. And so we're starting to see that evolve. And I think in college football, you see the same. And now all of a sudden you've got an Ashton Genty who nobody nationally really knew about coming into this year. And now he's probably the front runner for the Heisman Trophy with the numbers he's putting up, along with Dylan Gabriel from Oregon and Travis Hunter, who's playing, both sides of the ball and doing historic things. So with Genty, he's going to be a top 10 pick. But even beyond that, like Quinshawn Judkins and Travion Henderson, watching that 1-2 duel and what they were able to do against Penn State and what they're doing for Ohio State. Omarion Hampton for North Carolina is having a huge year. Nicholas Singleton, the running back for Penn State. I mean, the list goes on and on. It's unbelievable. Like Trevor Etienne from Georgia, Kalel Mullings, a former linebacker, now running back at Michigan, having a huge year. Dylan Sampson, who anyone who's a fan of the SEC, watching what he's doing for Tennessee. So this could be a historic year, not necessarily first round or even first 2 rounds. But when we get into like the late second, third, fourth, fifth round, it could be the most running backs we've seen come off the board in a long, long time.
I have a heavy bias because I have a relationship with Deion Sanders, Coach Prime. I've known him for a long time. I love him. He's my favorite. So I love what he's doing at Colorado. I have a heavy bias, but I say that. So if I ask you, how do you feel like it's not even an experiment anymore. It doesn't feel like that because he's been there long enough. How do you feel like Coach Prime has done at Colorado?
I think it's been a massive success by any measurement. It started with his ability because of his name and his brand and the way he promotes everything that they do. And it turned a lot of people off. But what it didn't do is turn off recruits from coming and wanting to play at Colorado. Colorado was 1-11 2 years ago. And we had Joel Klatt on the show last week. And he obviously was a three-year starter at Colorado and is tied in very well to Colorado. And I forget the number, but I think they lost by like close to an average of like 20 points that year when they were 1-11 before Coach Prime came in. And so obviously the attention they got, the commercials, the interviews, and everything that came with it, it felt like a little bit of a disappointment when they won, what was it, four games a year ago, 4 or 5 games. But it was still a huge turnaround from the product on the field the year before that he was there. And this year, the attention, like the national media, has not been on Colorado as much as it was a year ago in the first year that he was there. This is a damn good football team, man. Like they're protecting Shedeur Sanders better. Their defense is a lot better. Like I'm not going to sit here and say they're going to win the Big 12 because you got BYU playing at a great level. You've got Kansas State. Iowa State had the loss last week. But Colorado's in it. And when's the last time we could say like Colorado in November is legitimately in the Big 12 race? So that's been phenomenal to see. The other thing too, man, I'm excited about, and I was talking to Joel Klatt about this as well. I think 2 weeks ago on one of our first shows, I made the comment, and I believe it, like we have to take it seriously when Coach Prime says, I'm going to dictate terms in the NFL draft. We've seen it before. John Elway. We saw it with Eli Manning. Like every once in a while, someone steps in and says, you know what? Your system doesn't apply. And I'm not going to allow my son to go to an organization that has no chance of winning. With David Tepper as the owner in Carolina, there's no chance he's going to let his son go and play in Carolina. There's probably no chance he's going to let him play in Cleveland. So that's going to be such an interesting facet. And I also, it was interesting after I put out that clip, someone brought it to my attention that Coach Prime had liked our video. I think it was a video that we did on Instagram, right? Just a 1.5-minute clip on me talking about how it is serious that Coach Prime is going to dictate terms where Shedeur goes and maybe even where Travis Hunter goes. And he liked that clip. And I am well aware that he's not sitting around watching the McShay show in the first 2 weeks of, its inception. And so like how intentional he is with that and having someone that's scouring through social media to find clips to help kind of promote the concept and let everyone in the National Football League know, hey, this is real. Like I'm going to be a problem for some of you organizations that want to draft my son. And that's going to be a fascinating storyline to follow.
You mentioned David Tepper, owner of Carolina. Let's stay on the owners for a second. Jerry Jones I don't know. Is he too old to do this anymore?
It's hard to say that he's too old to do this anymore, but I think if he if he wants to help himself in the Cowboys organization, there has to be a little bit more checks and balances. There's got to be people in that organization that can tell him no, that can have foresight, that can advise and guide a little bit better. Some of the offseason moves. I mean, you look at some of the people that they let go. Amari Cooper being one of them, and Tony Pollard in Tennessee. I know Tennessee's not winning, but my goodness, is he effective as the running back there? And can you imagine like the difference between bringing back Ezekiel Elliott, who wasn't even dressed this week because of basically a suspension for not attending meetings and all the other issues? It feels like a mess. And to see that, to see Dak Prescott, they caught him saying, we bleep and suck. And just like, it feels like for the first time, it's not just like this big Cowboys show and the product isn't as good as all the hype. It feels like things are falling apart in that organization. And to spend the money they did on Dak when they spent that money, which meant they had to pay a lot more because they got so late in the process rather than setting the market a little bit earlier. It just poorly managed in terms of the salary cap and the players that they're paying versus the players they're letting go, would, to me, stands out the most from this last offseason.
Two more organizational questions, and they can kind of be in the same order. The Bengals have to win a bunch, and the Jets have to win a bunch. They both have had pretty subpar starts to the season. Can either one of those teams win enough games to make the playoffs?
I think they're both capable, talent-wise. I truly think they're both capable. But the margin of error that they've put themselves in is just, it's hard to overcome. So if there are any two teams that talent-wise are capable of doing it, it's the Bengals and the Jets. The Bengals, it seems like they always, with Joe Burrow, they've always gotten off to slow starts. The contract situations with their wide receivers absolutely played into that early this year. They're starting to pull it all together. I think they'll make a legitimate run at it, but I don't have enough confidence that they'll actually be able to win. What was the Burrow quote before last week? Like, we got to win 7 out of 9. That's doable. We can do that. Paraphrasing, but essentially that's what he said. And yeah, it is doable, but it ain't going to be easy, And so I wouldn't bet on them being able to make that kind of run. But if there's a team that could do it, I think they're one of them. For the Jets, like, you see the Richmond Spiders helmet, Joe Douglas, I'm pointing to the wrong one. Joe Douglas, I played with Joe. He's the general manager of the Jets, played with Joe at Richmond. So I've known him for, almost 30 years now. He's put together a really good roster. Ownership with Woody Johnson has made it difficult. Just check out Bill Belichick and all of his quotes. And I know there's a rivalry there and frustration in their history, but he's not wrong with a lot of things he's saying. And so it's difficult, when ownership has its hand in some of the decisions, that plays a factor. Aaron Rodgers does not look the same. The injuries definitely have slowed him down. He's not able to move around the way he used to. There feels like there's a lack of tempo and urgency in that offense. But this past week, they finally looked like the Jets that you'd expect to see. Devontae Adams, the addition is huge. Garrett Wilson still playing at an extremely high level. Breece Hall is one of the best, most talented running backs in the NFL. Like, they've got the talent. I think defensively, they've been a little disappointing in terms of their tackling, their linebackers, and all of that. But I don't pull for any organization, but I appreciate what Joe has done there. The players he's drafted, the players that they've brought in, they've done a phenomenal job. It's just, can this organization gel and can they play their best ball down the stretch, which they're going to have to do. And they're going to have to go on a run similar to the one we were talking about with the Bengals, like probably 7 out of 9 wins. And that's not easy to do in the NFL.
Last question, multi-part, but I do want to talk about 4 rookie quarterbacks and how you feel like they have played based on how you felt like they would play. Obviously, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels. I love Bo Nix. I didn't love Bo Nix, but I love Bo Nix now because that dude just goes. Like, he's an idiot and he's awesome, like, in the same game. Also, who else am I free? And Drake May, yeah. So talk
Drake
about
May,
those 4 quarterbacks and how you feel their development's been and kind of the ceiling for each of these guys.
We could go on for an hour, right? I'll try to kind of be brief and sum it up. Jaden Daniels there's a case study that general managers should study. And I think more importantly, quarterbacks in college football that legitimately have a chance to go play in the NFL should study. Jaden was it was like a 5th round prospect going into his first year at LSU. Developed. Talked to Brian Kelly before a Tennessee game that they wind up getting blown out on, but he understands like what I do and told me like, listen, stick with Jaden. He's special. We know he's a special athlete, but what you don't see yet on tape is in games is what I see in practice, the anticipation, the ability to throw guys open. When he trusts his read, he's a phenomenal passer. And we hadn't seen that yet. And he said, I'm pissed off this week because everyone in the local media is saying Jaden doesn't have an interception. He's been tremendous. He's like, I just want him to throw an interception. I want him to like get to realize like the world's not going to end if he trusts a read, throws the ball and it doesn't work out and he throws a pick. And I'll never forget the first play in that game. They had a design comeback route, and I could just hear him in meetings like, Jaden, I don't care if it's an interception. I don't care what happens. Let it rip. Trust your read. And he did. And it was a perfect throw completion. And even though they lost that game, it was like from that point on, he kept getting better. And what we saw in his second and final year, I said coming out, like, I think Caleb Williams has tools that are unique and special, and if developed properly, can be one of the elites of all time. And you see some comparisons with he and Patrick Mahomes. But if I was dropped on this earth and was just given the 2023 tape of the 2 quarterbacks, I'd say, oh yeah, Jaden's the guy. And Jaden had with Mike Denbrock, his offensive coordinator at LSU, Jaden came into the NFL and it was a lot of similar stuff. And it was very similar system. So not only did he have like 56 starts or whatever it was between Arizona State and LSU and have the opportunity to grow in a more of a pro style system as he got to LSU, but he played in a system that prepared him for the NFL. So I think the combination of the game experience that Jaden had and the developing that he did in his final year and a half there at LSU, and the fact for NFL teams to look and say, you know what, how critically important was it to Jaden his rookie year to play in a system that he was comfortable in? And so I say that because what he's doing is so unique and special. Rookie quarterbacks should not play at the level that Jaden Daniels is playing this year. And what is Washington now? 7-2. So this is a rarity, but there's something to learn from this. And then you look at Caleb, and Caleb after the first 3 weeks, we're like, oh no. And watching Jaden, how great he was playing, like maybe Caleb's not what we thought he was going to be. Maybe some of the, the backyard football, the sandlot stuff, maybe he's always going to try to play hero ball. But then he started to really make progress from like weeks 3 or 4 for like 3 or 4 weeks. And now in the last couple of weeks, he's coming back down to earth a little bit. The problem for Caleb is if it keeps on this trajectory, it's going to be just another rookie quarterback going into his second year with a new head coach, a new offensive coordinator, and starting over again. And so hopefully Chicago makes the right decision if that's the route they go with a new staff and brings in someone that actually knows how to develop quarterbacks, because Caleb is absolutely special. He is. Jaden and Caleb are unique. They're different. They have a chance to be elite quarterbacks in the NFL. So that's those two. Drake May is kind of exactly where we thought, an organization that does not have the supporting cast around him. Hopefully he doesn't have to play as a rookie, but we all kind of know he's going to play as a rookie, right? Because they all do. And I've been encouraged. Like I was at the Jets game. I went down there with my son and watched the Jets game. And before he had the concussion and got injured, I was really encouraged by like how poised he was, how comfortable he was. He's not there as a passer yet. The system's completely different, and it's been a big jump for him. But you see some of the positive signs. And I think if New England next year can bring in some more weapons, protect him better, another year of experience, I think Drake May is going to have a chance to be a solid to above average quarterback in the league. And then Bo Nix, I didn't see it as much as Sean Payton. And I give Sean Payton a lot of credit. And there's going to be bumps in the road. And after the first couple of weeks, I kept thinking to myself, maybe Sean shouldn't have been so, like over the top with his preseason hype of Bo, and maybe he set the bar too high, and so the expectation is never going to meet it. But he loves Bo Nix, and that's his guy, and he's been looking for his guy, the next Drew Brees. And I'm not saying he's going to be Drew Brees, because there's not many that God makes, right? But I do think that he is the right fit, And we're seeing Bo like he's mature, competitive. It just loves the game, coach's son, all those sorts of things. And you can see the development week in and week out. There's going to be, setbacks. We saw it this Sunday, but you can see Bo Nix is the right guy for Sean Payton. And that's fun to watch too, as a guy who sits in this room and watches tape all the time. Like it's not just about the process of where they get drafted. It's about where they land and what do they have around them to develop. And clearly Jaden has the right things in place to develop, which is shocking to say from a Washington organization with Daniel Snyder at the top for so long. They couldn't do that. Caleb does not yet. Drake May does not yet. Bo Nix, it will keep getting better, but Bo Nix is in the right place. And that's all you can ask for as a rookie quarterback.
I want to encourage everybody to check out the McShay Show. I'm already a massive fan. Are you doing 3 episodes a week? Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday?
Yeah, we're doing it. So Saturday night is just during the season. We're doing it after the primetime game. This is our first week live. I'm glad you brought it up. The last 2 weeks we've taped it. This is the first week we're going to be live on YouTube and Spotify right after the primetime game. And we figure let's get the kinks out the first 2 weeks, right? Now we're going into week 3. And I mean, who doesn't want to talk about LSU, Alabama right after that game? And I know there's going to be lunatics that are still up that want to yell at their screen, and like we're the place to do it. So probably around 11:30, whenever Herbie and Fowler they sign off on that game, we're going to jump right on and we're going to talk about that game and some of the other big games on Saturday. And then every Tuesday and Thursday, we'll kind of college football reaction, college football look ahead Tuesday and Thursday respectively, and always with the NFL and NFL draft tied in. And when the season wraps up, it'll probably be 2 shows still on Tuesday and Thursday, and just a heavy focus on the NFL draft in February, March, and April.
Go search up the McShay Show. Todd, big fan again. Thank you for your time, and hopefully I'll talk to you again soon.
Yeah, I'd love that, Bobby. I appreciate the time with you, man.
All right, see you, buddy. All right, we're just about done. What is your one favorite story / takeaway from the weekend? Kevin, I'll go to you first.
Probably, I'm enjoying watching Oregon. Oregon's rolling.
I'm enjoying watching them get. I don't know if they're getting better, but they're getting better.
It seems like they are. When all these teams, like the Georgia, still barely beat Florida. Like these teams are barely hanging on, and Oregon is just almost separating themselves now.
And especially because of the first of the year, they were almost losing.
Yeah,
like not just the Boise State game. It happened a few times.
Yeah, Idaho, I think.
Yeah, so I agree, and we are a bit biased because we were up there. We were with Coach Lanning. But yeah, they are like really at the peaking at the perfect time. It feels like.
You see our boy Tez went down though.
I did see that.
Dang. I don't know if it's I think it was a broken collarbone, but
it was. I didn't know that.
It was definitely a shoulder.
That sucks. But he's gone then for probably 6 to 8 weeks. Broken collarbone, right?
Broken collarbone.
I have no idea. I love to play internet doctor.
Yeah,
but my buddy Chris broke his collarbone in high school and he was out 6 to 8 weeks.
So you base it all off of that?
Yep, that's literally the only thing I base it off of.
Yeah, it doesn't say details yet. It just says I think he's getting further evaluations, as they say.
Reed, did you watch any sports at all?
I didn't watch anything this weekend. I just cooked and chilled with the lady.
Reed's fiance was in town, so he was worthless to us on this show.
I didn't even play pickleball, man.
It's like, there'll be new rankings out. We had quite the match yesterday. There'll be somebody that is rising up the rankings.
Oh, can't wait to hear it. Stay tuned.
So the new pickleball rankings will be out the next episode.
Can't wait.
We'll play once this week, I'm sure, if you guys want to play like Wednesday or something.
Okay.
But it is not going to be pretty for some folks if they don't get some wins in. That's all I'm going to say.
I'll be ready.
Are there any new additions?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Solid yes.
Eddie, did you go yesterday?
I did not. No, I did not go yesterday.
There will be a new addition, and we had somebody new play for the first time. You can't be on the list because you got to have two appearances before you get on the list. Who took me to the championship match and gave me some business.
Really?
Oh,
Yeah, I did not win, but gave me some business in the championship match.
Okay.
So that's all I'm going to say.
What are the initials?
Don't worry about it. How about that? D W
A I.
Boom. Dway.
Dway.
It was Dway. Don't worry about it.
I know him. Yeah.
Yes. Eddie?
What do you want to talk about? The Cowboys? What do you want to talk about?
It doesn't matter.
The best takeaway of the weekend. I mean, the Cowboys, they suck.
Eddie's like a depressed.
Well, it's hard to even watch football. Like I tried to watch the game last night, the Minnesota Vikings, and like let's see if they can win this game. Fell asleep halftime.
we didn't get to talk about Casey's Jets win over the Texans because we did that show Thursday afternoon.
baby.
Yeah, so I'll give you a second to talk about that here.
Yeah, I mean, it was probably a typical. It was a typical first half of the Jets. That guy Malachi Corley that we picked up last year, third rounder. Everyone was like hyping him up. They're like, where has he been? Where has he been? Then he, gets his moment, runs into the end zone, drops the ball right before it crosses the plane.
I don't know why people still do that.
I don't know how. So
crazy, right?
So the first half was kind of what this whole year has been, but I guess there was some kind of pep talk at the second half because they came out swinging, man. Garrett Wilson looking pretty good. Had that amazing catch that everyone's been comparing to OBJ's catch in MetLife Stadium. So I don't know. We'll see. We got Arizona coming up and the Colts.
You got a little pep in a step. You hear?
Yeah, I hear that.
Yeah.
I'm believing again. I'm believing again.
Go.
You know? I think the Bills are the only team we play coming up that is over 500. Every team that we play is under 500. So it's time to
Including
believe,
you.
guys. Including us. Including us.
Listen to the tone of his voice.
It's amazing what a win will do.
1 week.
One
One
win.
win. Tone of his
Big
voice.
win. Texans, man. Let's go.
That's awesome.
So I don't like. I'll end on this. I play in 2 fantasy football leagues. I don't like playing in 2 leagues. I like to play in 1, so I can put all my eggs in that basket and not have to worry about who's playing who and do I have teams on the. But I have 2 close groups. But in the league I play in with Kevin Klug, my trainer, I'm like, of all 12 teams in the league, I'm like 3rd overall in points. But I was like 1-6. So luckily they have that rule. Both leagues now do, where 6 teams go to the playoffs, but the 6th spot goes to the person who has the most points that's not in the top 5.
Okay.
So and I love the rule because it's just unlucky sometimes when you play teams that are putting up a bunch of points.
Yeah.
Record hasn't been good in that league, but I've been just scoring like crazy. And so last week, Dak put up like a 40 spot, and the game was over to me. But Dak put up a 40 spot. I ended up winning my game because I woke up and I was like, "Oh my god, I won!" I remember because I don't know why I stopped watching the game.
It was a terrible game.
Was it?
They scored late.
Turned it okay.
Yeah.
So I ended up winning because Dak put up that 40. I didn't know. Logged on this morning. I was way down. Do you know who I have on my team that put up a significant amount of points that ended up winning me the game? Can you think of anybody who put up significant points?
Zay Flowers.
He did put up a lot of points, but something I wouldn't have seen. Jackson Smith and Jigba put up like 40.
Oh, yeah. He caught a lot of balls.
Again.
And a couple touchdowns.
Oh, I had him on the bench. Dang it.
He had like 40 points. So in that league where I was like 1 and whatever, I think now I'm going to, are we 9 weeks in?
9, yeah.
I think now I'm 4 and 5. I've won like 4.
Make a run.
But I don't even need a run. I got so many points. I'm going to have that 6th spot anyway.
Yeah.
But big shout out to those games where you don't think you're going to win and you win. Because I hate it the opposite when it happens and it's the opposite. Because that's happened to me too, where I'm like, I got this. I'm going to bed and you wake up and you're like, he scored 71 points.
Yeah.
So that's what's up. Thank you guys. And that's going to do her.
Does basketball start today? College basketball?
What's today? Monday?
Monday. I saw a bunch of games.
Maybe. We don't. Arkansas's not today, so
No,
that's
you
all I
guys play
think about.
Wednesday.
We play Lipscomb.
Yeah, Lipscomb in
Yeah.
Arkansas, though. I
Yeah,
thought they'd be
in
here.
No, you didn't
That'd
think
be-
they would be here. We would
that'd-
come and play here.
But that would be so cool.
I mean, I would like that, but we wouldn't come play here.
Yeah, there's
okay.
some games today.
Let's go.
That's it. Thank you guys, and we will see you next week. Goodbye, everybody.